On December 20, 2025, the United States Department of Justice released nearly 30,000 pages of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. It was the largest single document dump in the case's history. Within hours, one page went viral, an FBI tip report from October 2020. It contained an unverified allegation against President Donald Trump. The Justice Department immediately issued a rare public statement, calling it false. Then came a handwritten letter, seemingly from Epstein himself, making crude references to our president. It spread across social media like wildfire. Hours later, the FBI declared it a fake. Wrong postmark, wrong jail, wrong handwriting. Posted 3 days after Epstein was already dead. But buried in those same files were flight records, internal prosecutor emails, photos that had never been public, in FBI tip-line reports that raised more questions than they answered. This release has triggered political fury, online confusion, and a fundamental question: what's real, what's fake, and what does the evidence actually show? This is the story of the latest Epstein file release. The allegations, the facts, the fakes, and what we can verify from the official records. Before we begin, subscribe to the US Debate for fact-based investigations into the cases that shape American politics and justice. We separate verified evidence from viral misinformation. Now, let's break down what's actually in these files. To understand what just happened, you need to understand where these files came from. In 2025, Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act. It's a bipartisan law that requires the Department of Justice to publicly release all documents and records related to their investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. The law was passed after years of pressure from victims, journalists, and lawmakers who argued the public deserved to know the full truth about Epstein's crimes and the government's handling of the case. On December 20, 2025, the Justice Department complied with the law's deadline. They released 29,465 pages of documents. That's the largest single release so far. What's in these files? Multiple types of documents. FBI tip-line reports. These are records of phone calls made by members of the public to FBI tip lines over the years. Some contain allegations. Some contain rumors. Some contain information that was investigated, some were not. Internal emails between federal prosecutors. These show communications within the Justice Department about the Epstein case. Flight logs, records of passengers on Epstein's private aircraft, photographs, images from Epstein's properties and social events, investigation notes, materials gathered during federal investigations. Here's the critical part. Most of these pages are heavily redacted. That means large portions are blacked out, names are removed, addresses are hidden, victim identities are protected. The Justice Department says this is required by law. They must protect survivors. They must shield ongoing investigations. They must redact personal information that could harm innocent people. But this creates a problem. The reductions make it hard to understand context. You see fragments of information without knowing the full story. And that's led to massive confusion about what these documents actually prove. The Justice Department has also made something clear. Just because a document is released doesn't mean it's true. Just because something appears in these files doesn't mean it's verified. And just because an allegation was reported doesn't mean it was investigated or confirmed. With that context, let's look at what's causing the biggest controversy. Did you know the Epstein Files Transparency Act was signed into law with bipartisan support? Both Democratic and Republican lawmakers voted for it. The law requires all Epstein-related documents to be released, but it also requires protection of victim identities and compliance with privacy laws. The document that has generated the most attention is an FBI tip-line report dated October 2, 2020. Here's what it says. Exactly as documented. The report records a phone call to an FBI tip line. The caller identified himself as a former limousine driver who worked in the 1990s. According to the report, the driver claimed that in 1995, he overheard Donald Trump on a phone call. The driver said Trump mentioned the name Jeffrey and made a statement about abusing a girl. The same report says the driver also spoke to a woman who told him she had been raped. The document records the woman saying she was raped by both Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. The woman's name is redacted in the file. That's what the document says. Now here's what the document does not say. It does not say the allegation was proven. It does not say the FBI confirmed the claim. It does not say Trump was investigated based on this tip. It does not say the woman was interviewed by law enforcement. It does not provide any corroborating evidence. This is an FBI tip line report. That means it's a record of what someone called in and claimed. FBI tip lines receive thousands of calls. Some contain credible information. Some contain false information. Some are politically motivated. Some are genuine attempts to help. The existence of a tip report does not mean the allegation is true. It means someone called it in. Now here's what makes this even more complicated. The Justice Department responded to this document with an unusual public statement. It's rare for the Justice Department to issue statements about specific documents in a file release. But they did in this case. The department said the allegation is false and sensationalist. They pointed out that the tip was submitted just days before the 2020 presidential election. They said if there had been credible evidence of this nature, it would have been investigated and used against Trump long ago. The Justice Department emphasized this clearly. Donald Trump has not been charged in the Epstein case. He has not been named as a suspect. He has not been formally investigated in connection with Epstein's crimes. The FBI report also includes another troubling detail. It states that the woman who allegedly made the rape claim later died. The document says she died from a gunshot wound to the head. No further details are provided. The Justice Department has not commented on the circumstances of her death or whether it was investigated. So what do we actually know from this document? We know someone called an FBI tip line in October 2020 and made an allegation. We know the Justice Department says the allegation is false. We know Trump has not been charged or investigated based on this claim. We know the document itself provides no corroborating evidence. That's what the verified facts show. Did you know? FBI tip lines receive thousands of calls every week. Not all tips are credible. Not all are investigated. Tip reports document what was called in, but they do not represent conclusions or findings by law enforcement. The FBI maintains tip records even when tips are not acted upon. Another document spread rapidly on social media immediately after the file release. It appeared to be a handwritten letter, signed J. Epstein. The letter was addressed to Larry Nassar, the convicted gymnastics doctor and child sex offender. The note included graphic language and made crude references to our president and young girls. Screenshots of this letter went viral. Thousands of posts shared it. Many claimed it was proof of Trump's involvement with Epstein's crimes. But within hours, the Justice Department issued another statement. The letter is fake. Here's how they know. First, the postmark. The letter was postmarked in Virginia, but Jeffrey Epstein was incarcerated in New York at the time the letter was supposedly written. He was held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. He did not have access to mail facilities in Virginia. Second, the date. The postmark date is August 13, 2019. Jeffrey Epstein died on August 10, 2019. The letter was supposedly mailed 3 days after Epstein was already dead. Third, the return address. The letter lists the wrong jail. It does not match the facility where Epstein was actually held. Fourth, the handwriting. FBI forensic analysts compared the handwriting in the letter to known samples of Epstein's handwriting. They do not match. The Justice Department stated clearly, this letter is fabricated. It's a hoax. And it proves an important point. Just because a document is included in a file release doesn't mean it's authentic. The Justice Department is releasing everything they have in their files, including materials that were submitted to them that turned out to be false. They're releasing it for transparency, but they're also warning the public to be careful about what they believe. This fake letter demonstrates the danger of the current situation. Unverified materials are being released alongside real documents. Fake items are mixed with genuine evidence, and without careful analysis, it's easy for misinformation to spread. Social media platforms struggle to contain the spread of the fake letter. Even after the Justice Department declared it fabricated, screenshots continued circulating. Many posts did not include the department's debunking. The damage was done. This raises a serious question about how these file releases are being handled. Is it responsible to release unverified materials to the public without clear warnings? Is transparency being served, or is confusion being created? The Justice Department says they are following the law. Congress required them to release everything. They cannot pick and choose what to make public based on whether it's verified, but they are issuing statements to clarify what's real and what's not. Did you know? The fake Epstein letter is not the only fabricated document that has circulated online in connection with the case. Over the years, multiple hoax documents, altered photos, and false claims have spread on social media. Forensic analysis and careful verification are essential to separating fact from fiction. Now let's talk about what the documents actually do confirm. The flight records. One of the files released is an internal email from a federal prosecutor. The email discusses Donald Trump's past travel on Jeffrey Epstein's private aircraft. According to the email, Trump flew on Epstein's jet at least 8 times. The flights occurred between 1993 and 1996. This is more than was previously reported in public records. Earlier reports had mentioned Trump flying on Epstein's plane, but the exact number of flights was not clear. The email provides additional details. On some of these flights, Ghislaine Maxwell was also on board. Maxwell, as you may know, was convicted in 2021 for her role in facilitating Epstein's sex trafficking operation. She is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. On one specific flight, the passenger list included Epstein, Trump, and a woman described as 20 years old. Her name is redacted in the documents. Here's what's important to understand. The email does not accuse Trump of any crime. It does not allege that he participated in or witnessed illegal activity on these flights. It simply documents that he was a passenger. Being listed on flight records does not imply wrongdoing. Many people flew on Epstein's plane over the years for legitimate business or social reasons. Some had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Some cut ties with him once allegations became public. Trump has publicly addressed his past association with Epstein. He has said he knew Epstein socially in the 1990s, that they moved in the same wealthy circles in New York and Palm Beach. Trump has also said he cut ties with Epstein in the mid-2000s after learning about inappropriate behavior. In a 2019 interview, Trump said, "I was not a fan of Jeffrey Epstein." He claimed he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago, his Palm Beach resort, though the exact timeline of that ban has been debated. The flight records confirm that Trump and Epstein had a social relationship in the 1990s. That much is not in dispute. What remains unclear is the nature and extent of that relationship, and whether Trump had any knowledge of Epstein's crimes during that period. The files also include a photograph. It shows Trump sitting beside Ghislaine Maxwell. The photo is undated. It appears to have been taken at a social event. Both are smiling. The context of the photo is not provided in the documents. Again, a photograph proves that two people were at the same event. It does not prove illegal activity. It does not prove knowledge of crimes. It documents a social connection. Other documents reference Trump's past contact with Epstein in general terms. Letters, phone records, and mentions in Epstein's calendars. These materials show that Trump and Epstein knew each other and had social interactions during the 1990s. What the documents do not show is any evidence that Trump participated in Epstein's crimes, knew about them at the time, or was investigated in connection with them. The Justice Department has made clear that Trump has not been charged, has not been named as a suspect, and has not been formally investigated in the Epstein case. Did you know? Flight logs from Epstein's private jet show hundreds of passengers over the years. Many were business associates, staff members, or individuals traveling for legitimate reasons. Simply appearing on a flight manifest does not indicate involvement in criminal activity. However, the logs have become important evidence in understanding Epstein's network of connections. The release of these documents has triggered intense political controversy. Democrats say the files raise serious questions about Trump's past ties to Epstein. Some have called for further investigation. Some have demanded that Trump provide a full public accounting of his relationship with Epstein. Republicans have responded by criticizing the way the files were released. Some say the document dump was mishandled. Some accuse the Justice Department of releasing unverified materials without proper context. Some say it's a politically motivated attack designed to damage Trump. Trump himself has called the file release a distraction. In a statement, he said the documents are being weaponized by political opponents. He has blamed both Democrats and some members of his own Republican Party for pushing for the release. Trump specifically criticized Congressman Thomas Massie, a Republican from Kentucky who has been vocal in demanding transparency about the Epstein files. Trump called Massie a real lowlife and said he was trying to smear innocent people by releasing photos and documents that show social connections but do unprove crimes. Trump said in a recent interview, "I don't like the pictures of other people being shown. I think it's a terrible thing. You probably have pictures being exposed of other people that innocently met Jeffrey Epstein years ago. Many years ago, and they're highly respected bankers and lawyers and others. And they'll end up being dragged through the mud. The political fight has overshadowed what should be the focus, the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, and the pursuit of justice. Survivors and advocates have expressed frustration with how the document release has become a partisan issue. They argue that the focus should be on holding accountable anyone who enabled Epstein, regardless of political affiliation. Some victims have also criticized the redactions. They say too much information is being hidden. They say the names of powerful people who facilitated Epstein's crimes are being protected while victims' identities are sometimes exposed. One survivor released a statement saying she was horrified to see her name appear multiple times in the documents, even though the Justice Department claimed to be protecting victims. Meanwhile, the faces of individuals who socialized with Epstein remain hidden behind black ink. This has created a sense that the system is still protecting the powerful while exposing the vulnerable. The Justice Department says it is following the law. It must release all documents as required by Congress. It must also redact information to comply with privacy laws and protect ongoing investigations. But the result is a document dump that has created more confusion than clarity. Unverified tips appear next to official records. Fake materials appear alongside real evidence. Redactions hide key context. Experts in criminal justice and media literacy warn that this environment makes it easy for false claims to spread online. Screenshots of FBI tip forms go viral without the Justice Department's warnings attached. People share documents without reading the full context. Misinformation spreads faster than fact-checking can keep up. This is the challenge of transparency in the digital age. How do you release information to the public, while also ensuring that information is understood correctly? Did you know? The political divide over the Epstein files mirrors broader divisions in American politics. Both parties have accused each other of using the Epstein case for political advantage. Meanwhile, bipartisan agreement on transparency laws shows that both sides officially support making the documents public, even as they fight over what those documents mean. Let's be absolutely clear about what the evidence shows and what it doesn't. Here's what we know for certain, based on the documents. Trump flew on Epstein's private jet at least 8 times between 1993 and 1996. This is documented in internal prosecutor emails. Some of those flights included Ghislaine Maxwell as a passenger. Trump and Epstein had a social relationship in the 1990s. They were photographed together. They moved in the same circles. This is confirmed by photos, flight logs, and other records. An FBI tip-line report from October 2020 contains an unverified allegation against Trump. The Justice Department says this allegation is false. Trump has not been charged or investigated based on this claim. A letter supposedly written by Epstein was determined to be fake by FBI forensic analysis. The postmark, handwriting, and other details prove it's fabricated. Now here's what we don't know. We don't know the full nature and extent of Trump's relationship with Epstein in the 1990s. We know they knew each other socially. We don't know how close they were or how often they interacted beyond what's documented. We don't know whether Trump had any knowledge of Epstein's crimes during the time they were associated. Trump says he did not. There is no public evidence that he did, but the full truth may never be known. We don't know if Trump was ever interviewed by law enforcement about Epstein. The documents released so far do not indicate that he was, but it's possible that such interviews occurred and are not included in these particular files. We don't know who else is named in the redacted portions of the documents. Many names are blacked out. Some may be victims. Some may be witnesses. Some may be individuals who had connections to Epstein. We don't know how many more documents will be released. The Justice Department says thousands more pages are expected. What they will contain is unclear. Here's what the Justice Department has stated officially. Donald Trump has not been charged in the Epstein case. Donald Trump has not been named as a suspect in the Epstein case. Donald Trump has not been formally investigated in connection with Epstein's crimes. The FBI tip report alleging rape is unverified, and the Justice Department says it is false. These are the facts as they stand based on the official record. Everything else is speculation, rumor, or political interpretation. Did you know? The Epstein case has generated more conspiracy theories and online misinformation than almost any other criminal case in recent memory. Experts attribute this to several factors: the high-profile connections, the secretive nature of Epstein's activities, his death in custody, and the slow release of information over many years. Separating verified facts from speculation requires careful attention to official sources. The controversy over these documents reveals something important about the Epstein case. It's become almost impossible to separate verified facts from partisan politics. Jeffrey Epstein's crimes are not in doubt. He sexually abused dozens of underage girls. He trafficked them across state lines and internationally. He ran a systematic operation of exploitation for years. He was convicted once in 2008 and faced new charges in 2019 before his death. His associate Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted and is in prison. Those are the established facts, but the questions that remain are deeply political. Who knew about his crimes? Who enabled him? Who looked the other way? Who benefited from their association with him? These questions touch some of the most powerful people in America: politicians, business leaders, celebrities, academics, both Democrats and Republicans, people across the political spectrum. And because the answers touch such powerful interests, every new document release becomes a political battlefield. Democrats point to Trump's flights on Epstein's plane and say it proves he was part of Epstein's circle. Republicans point to Bill Clinton's flights on the same plane and say Democrats are hypocrites. Both sides accuse the other of protecting their own while attacking their opponents. The victims get lost in this fight. Multiple survivors have said publicly that they don't care about political parties. They care about justice. They care about accountability. They care about anyone who enabled Epstein being held responsible, regardless of who they are or what party they belong to. But that's not the conversation happening in the media or online. The conversation is about Trump, about Clinton, about political scandals and elections. The real story, the story of how Epstein was able to abuse children for years, how systems failed to stop him, how powerful institutions protected him gets drowned out by partisan fighting. This is the tragedy of how this case has unfolded. Instead of a unified demand for justice, we have political warfare. Instead of focusing on protecting future victims, we're arguing about whether a photo or a flight log proves guilt by association. The Justice Department is stuck in the middle. They're required by law to release documents, but they're also being attacked from both sides. Democrats say they're not releasing enough. Republicans say they're releasing too much unverified material. There may be no way to satisfy everyone. Transparency is important, but so is context. And in the age of social media, context is often the first casualty. The Epstein files will continue to be released in waves over the coming months. More names will be revealed, more connections will be documented, more controversies will erupt. But unless we learn to separate verified facts from speculation, unless we focus on justice rather than politics, the truth may remain buried under partisan noise. Did you know? The Epstein case involves connections to hundreds of individuals across multiple continents and decades. Investigators have interviewed thousands of witnesses and reviewed millions of documents. The full scope of his network, and the full accounting of who knew what and when, may take years to fully understand, if it ever is fully understood. So what can we conclude from this latest document release? First, the documents confirm that Donald Trump had a social relationship with Jeffrey Epstein in the 1990s. That much is established fact. Flight records and photos prove they knew each other and spent time together. Second, the documents do not prove that Trump participated in or knew about Epstein's crimes. An unverified FBI tip alleges wrongdoing, but the Justice Department says it's false. And Trump has not been charged or investigated. Third, a fake letter spread online demonstrates the danger of this document release process. Fabricated materials are being mixed with real evidence, and many people cannot tell the difference. Fourth, the political fight over these documents is overshadowing the pursuit of justice for Epstein's victims. Both parties are using the case to attack each other rather than focusing on accountability. Fifth, more documents are coming. The story is not over, and the controversies are not over. What's clear is this: Jeffrey Epstein committed horrific crimes. He did not act alone. Many people knew him, some enabled him, some looked the other way, and some had no knowledge of his crimes, despite knowing him socially. Separating those categories requires evidence, not speculation. It requires investigation, not social media screenshots. It requires careful analysis, not viral outrage. The truth matters. Facts matter, and in this case, the truth is buried under layers of politics, misinformation, and incomplete information. The Justice Department will continue releasing documents. Journalists will continue analyzing them. Politicians will continue fighting over them. But for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, none of this brings back what was taken from them. None of this erases the trauma. None of this fully delivers the justice they deserve. That's the real tragedy of this case. Not the political scandals. Not the viral documents. But the lives that were destroyed by a predator who operated for decades while powerful people either enabled him or failed to stop him. The files are public now. You can read them yourself. You can draw your own conclusions. But do so carefully. Verify what you see. Check the sources. Distinguish between allegations and evidence. Separate fact from fiction. That's the only way the truth will ever emerge from the noise. If you want to stay informed with fact-based analysis of cases like this, subscribe to the US Debate. We separate verified evidence from viral misinformation. Hit that like button, share this video, and let us know in the comments what you think. The Epstein case continues, the fight for truth continues, and the demand for justice continues.